So let's zoom out today and look at the bigger picture. We are just days into the new year and the situation in Venezuela is heating up. Once again, as we all concluded here, it's all about the oil. The narrative about the cartels is probably just a smokescreen. We must remember what Trump said after the tanker was seized. Reporters asked him about the oil, and his reply was really something else.
Interested in the seizure of this tanker. What happens to the oil on this ship?
Well, we keep it, I guess.
Where does it go? What port does it go to?
Well, you have to follow the tanker. You know, you're a good newsman. Just follow the tanker.
Do you know where
Follow,
it's going? Was it
follow
going
it.
to
Get a
China?
helicopter and follow the tanker.
Is it true it's going to
But we're
Cuba?
gonna. I assume we're gonna keep the oil.
In addition to that mess, the US has a complete blockade of Venezuelan waters. Trump is trying to squeeze away oil shipments from the country to the world. Considering that is 30% of Maduro's economy, this is highly effective, but at the same time, it is very brutal as well. And it's not even about the seizures. No company or shipper wants their vessel to get boarded for checks. Even if your ship isn't sanctioned, the delays could cost you a ton of money. For a big vessel carrying 1 million barrels, this could easily reach 100 grand for a single day. This is what they call demurrage. It's basically a tax on a ship. The impacts are really serious. In total, we have at least 11 ships turning away and reversing course. It just isn't worth it to transport oil anymore. Trump has been touting a lot about cheap energy prices, but his actions are cutting off oil supply to the world. Those ships could carry at least 12 million barrels from Caracas to the world, and now the oil is going to be rotting in storage tanks in the country. And there is a limit to how much oil those tanks can store. Here's the big problem. Who are the biggest buyers of Venezuelan oil? It's the Chinese. Refineries in China, they buy over 90% of Maduro's exports. The discounts are so big, and Beijing is always hungry for energy. But Trump has essentially started an oil supply confrontation with China. His beef with Maduro has spilled over and is hammering down on the Chinese. And if this continues, we will likely see some sort of response from Beijing. Oil production in the country has fallen by 25% down to under 500,000 barrels a day. This is just in 2 weeks since the blockade started. Oil traders and shipping companies, they are spooked out. They aren't buying and shipping the crude. Oil storages in Venezuela are getting maxed out, so the only logical response is to cut production at the source itself. But that means China's supply of cheap crude here has probably fallen by 25%. And considering they are getting a $10 to $15 discount a barrel, Beijing is definitely pissed off about that. It's basically an energy squeeze by the US on China. We have talked a lot about it in 2024 and 2025. The presence of the US Navy can be a threat to the Chinese supply chains. Now, in the Middle East, as we have seen before, the Navy was used to secure supply chains to Israel. In Latin America today, it is used to control the supply routes of crude oil. It is what it is. And to make matters worse, the US just ramped up the pressure on China. They have sanctioned Chinese companies and oil tankers. Trump doesn't want China involved in his beef with Maduro. And if Chinese oil supplies gets hammered, he doesn't care. According to Besson, Maduro's regime increasingly depends on a shadow fleet of worldwide vessels to generate revenue for its destabilizing operations. This is dangerous on so many levels. The US is testing out their playbook of gunboat diplomacy again. All they need to do is to sanction a ship, and everything is fair game. A seizure is now possible. The situation today is just so ridiculous. The US is turning global oil shipping into a game of cat and mouse. This is how taxpayer dollars are being spent. The US Navy is spending a ton of money to chase multiple black pearls on the high seas. And this one is funny. The US is trying to intercept the oil tanker Bella 1, but the crew suddenly added a Russian tricolor to the side of the vessel. Suddenly, the vessel might be operating under Russian jurisdiction. And this reminds me of the Nicolas Cage movie Lord of War, where they flew another flag and they painted a new name on the ship. It's the exact same thing happening here. And if the US gets it wrong and they dare to board the vessel, and if it is under Russia, there will be a diplomatic firestorm. So there are still ways to evade the US Navy, Bella Wan just did the Hollywood version. For China, this whole situation is still a mess. The risk isn't just restricted to Venezuelan oil. The US Navy and Army, they have global bases all over the world and they have various commands, which means in a conflict, Chinese supply chains could get compromised. It could even get cut off if things get nasty enough. We just need to look at the world map where China gets their oil supply from. A lot of Chinese supply comes from Malaysia, the Middle East, and of course, Latin America. Many of them have choke points like the Suez Canal or the Strait of Hormuz. And the US military has a global presence. They even name each of their commands around the world. US Central Command, for example, is responsible for activities in the Middle East, including Iran and Saudi Arabia. So you can see how messy the situation can get if a conflict really happens. The US Navy is always within reach and they are deployed strategically around the world. Yes, it is costing the US taxpayer a lot of money. The burden on the national deficit is tremendous, but it does give Washington a big stick to clobber the world with. China is a manufacturing powerhouse. They have supply chains all over the world, but they are only as useful as being able to secure them. That will mean using the Chinese Navy sooner or later. The US Navy is moving to expand their fleet by 2045. They will be spending over $1 trillion to amass a 373 ship fleet. And we can all agree on one thing. If there's anything the US can find the money for, it is to fund the military. So many people in the military industrial complex, the MIC, they're going to benefit. And rest assured, they will find the $1 trillion somewhere, somehow. Just look at the annual purchase of the ships, both combat and support. It's across the board from submarines to combat logistic ships. Many of them would be used to secure supply chains and even seize sanctioned vessels. Financially, this will be a big concern. It's a tremendous burden. The plan is to spend $1 trillion, but they will probably exceed that amount. For all we know, it could be double that. So prepare for bigger deficits. And if you're wondering why interest rates in the US are just so high, why the debt can't seem to drop, here's why. Just ask the US military. Just look at this chart. Trying to project power globally is very costly and it won't be cheap. In the next 20 years, we will be witnessing a massive navy buildup in the US. And to secure the supply chains, we can also expect China to match the US move for move. The Chinese, they have no choice. You cannot sanction-proof your economy without physically securing your supply chains. So military spending on both sides is only going to skyrocket. Now, while this mess is happening, Beijing is making moves to financially squeeze Washington. The currency war is starting to ramp up and China is now on the offensive. This update is really subtle, but it shows us that China understands how their currency can now be used as a weapon, and they can use it to their advantage, especially when the dollar continues to crash. The Chinese government now endorses a stronger yuan. It's a green light to the market that China is making a pivot to strengthen their currency to put further pressure on US markets. And this works on multiple fronts and actually helps counter the US campaign on Chinese goods. Over the past few months, the US has been telling trading partners to put up a wall on Chinese goods. That's the Fortress America plan. Besson wants not just Mexico or Canada to cancel Chinese imports, but the whole world if he can get it. Now just listen to the US Select Committee on China when it comes to EVs, electric vehicles. It is the same spiel of overcapacity we heard from Blinken and from Janet Yellen years back. The exact same playbook.
China and its system of non-market practices across the global automotive supply chain. Chinese companies are now at the forefront of a state-backed strategy to dominate global automotive production. This is not normal industrial production or competition. China is flooding the global markets with both EVs and traditional vehicles through massive overcapacity, which is driven and subsidized by the state. The result is a wave of Chinese industrial dumping that exports deflation, wipes out competitors, and tilts the playing field before cars even reach the showroom. Even Russia, China's so-called no-limits partner, has implemented trade barriers against this overproduction. China's overcapacity is not an accident. It is incentivized at every level of government.
That's why China is going to use their currency to fulfill two big objectives. Now, the first is to disarm the US argument of China crushing the world with exports. The stronger the Chinese currency rises, the less of a price advantage Chinese exporters will get. Their exports would technically get slightly more expensive. That's how things work. Trading partners can say China is letting the markets work. It dismantles the US argument of Beijing dumping cheap goods. This is very important. It reduces political pressure for countries to impose tariffs on Chinese goods. So there's a less chance of Besant's Fortress America plan really happening. The PBOC, which is China's central bank, is going to allow the RMB to appreciate. They will take a gradual approach, but make no mistake here, there's still a lot of room for the currency to strengthen. We are past 7 RMB to the dollar, but there is a chance for it to hit 650 to the dollar. And why can China afford to do that? Because Trump's own tariffs are helping Beijing. It's simple math actually. The moment the US slapped the world with a blanket 10 to 20% tariff, suddenly economies they need cheap Chinese inputs. So even if Chinese exports rise by 3 to 5%, it is still feasible for exporters to push goods out. A 5% rise in price is not enough to offset the huge Trump tariffs. His tariffs are just too high. It's really hilarious at this point. As the Chinese RMB continues to appreciate, it creates a flywheel of benefits for Beijing. Now, President Xi wants to internationalize the RMB, and a great way to do it is to strengthen the currency. And this allows holders of the RMB to have more confidence in holding Chinese assets. They will buy more RMB bonds. Not only do you enjoy a yield, when the bond matures, you will get back a stronger currency. The underlying asset is appreciating, and that makes all the difference when the dollar is falling. It entices global money to flow into China. Chinese stocks tells us the big picture. From 2021 to 2024, the RMB was falling dramatically and money left Chinese markets. However, last year we saw a big turnaround. Chinese markets beat the S&P's performance by over 11%, which is huge. A big part of it is definitely China's stimulus and the economy thriving despite the trade war. But the rising currency also plays a major role in this. Whenever you buy a stock or bond, the container itself is the currency. The stronger the container, the more confidence investors will have in your markets. A stronger currency today is better for China overall. It helps attract global capital and allows China to prolong their export game with the world. Beyond that, a stronger RMB allows China to fund many projects and lowers their import costs. And what is the best purchase using fiat currency? It's buying real wealth. And by that, we mean gold bullion. Chinese companies are moving to rapidly buy gold mines and pushing production to the maximum. Now, sure, gold prices are rising, so there is an incentive there by itself. However, the rising currency is also a powerful motivator. Because the currency is stronger, you can spend more overseas. The RMB can buy more services to develop mines from Central Asia all the way to Africa. And when China gets more gold in the country, it's a powerful benefit for the entire economy. They can hold fewer dollar reserves, and their commodity markets get even stronger over time. So, yes, things are heating up in 2026. The confrontation between the US and China is far from over. The US is going to spend a ton of money to bolster its military, especially the Navy, while China is going to squeeze US markets even more using their currency. It is an open goal for them today. But let me know what you think. Will China retaliate over its oil supply? And will investors leave dollar assets for the Chinese currency? Let me know in the comments below. Stay safe. Be sure to smash the like button and subscribe as we navigate through these crazy times.